right, well, good afternoon and welcome to our DMAC Ask a Professional event. Thank you for being here. We are excited to have Kelly Smith, Health Information Technology professional here with us today. And our hope really with these events are that they're linking your education and your career interests to businesses and professionals right here in Central Iowa. Before we get started, I would just like to say a quick hello as your host. My name is Jill Hoyk. I work a part of the work-based learning team here at DMAC. So again, welcome and thank you all for tuning in today. I would also like to mention that we do have a health information technology program. We have an Associate of Applied Science degree here at DMAC, as well as certificate options too. And so I will leave some information about that in the chat. So for those of you who are interested in learning more about that, can take a peek at that. But without further ado, I would love to introduce our professional for today. Like I mentioned, we have Kelly Smith. Kelly is a DMAC graduate and has served in several different roles within the health information technology career, all just different sides of careers, and that she'll talk a little bit about too as well. But Kelly, thank you so much for your time today and being here with us. And with that, I will kind of open up the first question for those of you who are on the call. And if you have any questions for Kelly, you can certainly leave them in the chat or kindly unmute yourself and ask that way too. But Kelly, thank you again for being here. I kind of introduced you, but if you just want to give us some background about maybe why you chose this career path, what got you interested in it, your education, maybe a little bit about that, and then what roles you have served in.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jill. So my name's Kelly Smith. I currently work at a company called Telligent. It's a health IT company. I was a little bit of a non-traditional student at DMAC. I went back to school as an adult. Right out of high school, I got my CNA certificate through DMAC. And then I kind of worked in the industry and worked in other jobs. And I ended up as a preschool teacher at my kids' school. And then I was looking for more of a career that was more professional, a little more pay. And so I actually called the adult learning coordinator at DMAC. And he kind of went through my skills, and with my CNA background and then my interest in technology, he said I should try the HIT program. And so I met with Patty, who was the chair then, and we talked about it. It seemed like a really good fit. So I started that program in 2017 and graduated in 2019. Through that program, I did get an internship, and I was lucky that Telligent hired me back on as a full-time employee. So that's how I came to be at Telligent as a health information solution coordinator. And now I'm actually doing the UNI at DMAC program to finish up my bachelor's in business.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So you kind of mentioned this, but can you talk a little bit about how healthcare and technology and kind of how it's the best of both worlds meshed into one, and maybe for those students that are interested maybe in healthcare, you know, how that really works into what you're doing. Maybe if they don't want to do patient care or be on the front lines, about how much knowledge within healthcare you have to know in order to have a career path in this realm.
Yeah. And in the health IT industry, there's all spectrums of people. We have nurses, and then we have IT professionals that learn the healthcare part. So like within my role, we need to know a basic understanding of healthcare, health terminology, kind of like the process of how people see a doctor and what different facilities you can go to and things like that. And then we also need to know a basic understanding of how computers work, basic computer programming, a little bit of basic coding, not really writing code, but being able to recognize code and look for specific parts within a code. And people come from all over. I mean, on my team, we have nurses that learn more of the IT side and IT people that learn the healthcare side. And then we even have like someone with an engineering degree that kind of just worked into the field. So it's really, you can learn as you go really well. The DMAC program is really great because you get like a little touch of everything. You take pharmacology, healthcare statistics, healthcare terminology, a little bit of healthcare coding, and then also a little bit of computer programming, your basic computer classes, and then your communication and writing classes as well.
Absolutely. That's interesting to hear, though, that you have nurses, learning more of the technical side, and then the technical side learning more of the healthcare side, and how that all meshes in. So that's interesting. Could you maybe explain a little bit about, for students that are potentially thinking about this career, what type of, not necessarily personality traits, but what makes a person successful in a career like this? Like what type of, maybe even education, but just some qualities that would make someone successful in a career like this?
Yeah, I think, having good customer service in the job that I'm working in, we have to communicate with doctors a lot. And so just being able to communicate well with them, understand what they're trying to say. And then there's a lot of patience involved too. Some of the doctors, all this new technology is a big change for them because they've been in the industry for a while. And so being patient with them while you're helping them through some of their IT problems is really a key skill to have. And then, like I said, just knowing like your general medical terminology and IT systems are good skills to have.
And then I know you've recently moved into a new position, but when you were the health solutions coordinator, can you kind of walk us through like a day-to-day of what you do, and then how that differs from your now current role, and what makes those two different, and just kind of walk us through a day in the life of what you do?
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. The program I was working on until about a month ago, we help doctors submit data to Medicare on patient measures. So when a patient comes in, your doctor asks you all those questions about like your mental health, things like that. They're tracking your blood pressure, your heart rate, all that. Some of those are measures that need to get submitted to Medicare for all patients, whether they're Medicare patients or not, just to make sure that doctors are doing what they're supposed to provide quality care. So like right now, from January to March, those doctors are submitting that data from 2021 to Medicare. So if they encounter problems, we actually are the support center for helping them with those problems. So they'll call in or they'll send us emails and we will help them figure out the problem. So we're looking at coded files from an electronic health record to find errors, which is very detail oriented to look through that. We're helping them understand what they need to report to Medicare. And then there are still some facilities that are on paper records, and so they have to manually enter data into a Medicare system. So a lot of times we'll have to walk them through that process. In the non-busy time, this is our busy time right now because they're all submitting that. In our non-busy time, we're working on developing documents to help doctors and their staff understand the policies for this program. And we do like webinars to explain things. That's kind of it. We used to do like a little bit of on-site work that's kind of gone away with COVID and the ability to do like Zoom meetings and things like that.
So is the company that you work for like an IT company that works with healthcare industries, or can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, so our company is actually like a healthcare IT company. So our work is, we do government contract work for the Centers for Medicaid and Medicaid Services, or for state companies. We do a lot of like health coaching. So we have clients, like DMAC could be a client and all their employees could work with us on health coaching. And then like prior authorizations for healthcare. It's pretty healthcare based, but more of the IT side of things.
Sure. What do you find most enjoyable about your career?
I really like working with the doctors and their staff and just being able to help them. Government policy obviously is very complicated, so just being able to understand that and explain it to them so they can understand it and help them figure out their problems, work through it. That's really enjoyable to me.
And what do you think is a challenge of your career?
Um, Learning the coding part was challenging for me. Like I had taken an intro to programming class at DMAC, but just getting into an actual coded file that has all these numbers and codes in there, it took a little while to pick up on that. Now that I've been doing it for a couple of years, it's a lot easier, but that was one of the most challenging parts.
And then before the call, when we were talking about just kind of the future of this realm and how much it's growing and all of that, what are some like newer things that you foresee happening within your industry or future things on the horizon?
Yeah, on the horizon is a lot more like interoperability, which is doctors and hospitals being able to talk to each other through their health records. So they're not faxing health records back and forth, and so they're just interconnected. So the government's trying to set up a site where you can log in and share health records. So if you are on vacation, or even if you're just seeing a doctor across town, they would be able to get your health records easily. Or if you have an emergency and are at the hospital, they can get your health records easily and know how to treat you better. So there's a lot of work in that. My company has a couple of new contracts working on that right now.
That's interesting. I already think it's pretty robust how it is, so I can't
Yeah.
imagine having it be even easier, right? If you could start over again, would you change anything about your career path? I know you mentioned you started this a little bit later, so would you have started it sooner? Or would you change anything about your career path?
It definitely would have been a lot easier to go to school right out of high school and when I didn't have the responsibilities of being a parent and things like that. Although I do think like working in different fields gave me a lot of the qualities that helped me in my current job. Like I learned how to be patient by working in a preschool. So I don't think I would go back and change it, but it definitely was hard to be a student and a parent at the same time.
Yes. I think that's great. Every time I ask a professional this question, a lot of them would not change their career, how they did what they did, because regardless if they were in it from the beginning or started later, that whatever path they chose led them up into that path. They're like, I don't even know if I would have even been down this road if I didn't do it in this way. So that's always interesting to hear. So how, like you mentioned you are able to work from home, but how many hours do you typically work a week? Can you work as many as you want, or is it pretty set hours, or how does that work?
Usually it's around 40. I would say during this busy time, there will be times we work a little more than 40. Our schedules are pretty flexible, and because we kind of have to provide support between 7 and 5 Central Time, we can work different schedules. There's some of us that work 7 to 3, and then other people work like 8 to 5. So it's pretty flexible. I'm sure it would be different if you're working in a hospital doing health IT. There's probably overnight shifts for those type things too.
Absolutely. And besides the challenging times, so you mentioned a little bit about busier times of the year than others. Can you talk just a little bit more about that, about what drives when you're busier and when you have a little bit more time?
Yeah, so like I said, that right now from January to March, people are submitting their data, so they have to get that done by March 31st. So this is our busy time when there will be errors that the system gives them, and so they'll call in. We're usually a little bit busy in November too, because that's when the government releases new policies and we have to spend a lot of time reading those and figuring them out so we're ready for the next year. The summer is generally like a slower time, which actually works out well because a lot of people like to go on vacations, but we're always have like steady work to do. It's just a little different because we're doing like document production rather than customer support.
Sure. So this might kind of be an ignorant question, but so do a lot of healthcare providers utilize the same like database in order to hold all the information, or do they all use different ones? And then how does that affect the way you do your job, I guess? Does that make sense?
So the doctors have what's called electronic health records, and there's over 200 of them. There's about 5 major electronic health records, and so those are bigger companies, and they usually have a lot of support. So a lot of times we're encountering these people that have these small records. You know, there's like an electronic health record that's specifically for podiatrists. So it's just a little bit different than one that would be for optometry, the eye doctors. So you have to know a lot of different systems, and a lot of times you have to get onto like a Zoom meeting with a doctor or their staff, just so you can walk through their system with them. Once you get familiar, they're all like sort of similar. So you can, as long as you're seeing it with them, you can usually guide them to figure out what they need to know.
Sure. What classes should high school students, do you think, be taking if they were looking for a career in this field?
If you have access to any health related classes, I would say that would be a good start. And then I know a lot of the high schools now have some basic computer programming classes that you can take. That would be a good start too.
Absolutely. And what, besides classes and maybe that realm, but what advice or preparation would you recommend for young people who want to enter into a career field like this?
I just say be ready to take on new projects and learn new things. When I started as an intern, my boss gave me a couple of projects and I jumped right into them and then asked her if I could expand on some of them. And that really made a good impression by taking on those projects and making them bigger and adding to them. And just always looking to learn new things. If there's little like online classes you can take now, you can watch YouTube videos about things. Because any more skills that you can bring to your team is always a good thing.
And you mentioned you're continuing your education. What degree are you doing with that 2+2? And how do you think that that is going to help in regards to your career? Is that going to be able to open up a lot more opportunities for you? Do you get paid more for your current role, or what are the benefits of that?
Yeah, so I'm doing the 2+2 Managing Business and Organizations degree. It's all online, but it's through UNI, so it's kind of a good fit to stay in Des Moines and do that. Like I mentioned, I recently moved onto our project management team, so learning more about business has really been a big step in that direction. Also, it's kind of a weird thing, but when you're working on government contracts, they like to have people that are up on the leadership levels having that bachelor's degree. So it's hard to move up when you're working on a government contract if you don't have a bachelor's degree.
Yeah. And then within your field, do a lot of employers help pay for furthering your education, or not so much?
Yeah, my company has a good tuition reimbursement policy. I think that's pretty standard in the industry. So once you're there and been there for a little, I think it's a year, then you can start getting tuition paid for, which is great. Absolutely. Benefit.
Yeah, that is one thing I think about the technology world that I've heard from, is that a lot of the employers will help pay for that further education if you choose to do that, which is awesome. Well, anybody else on the call have any more questions for Kelly? Please leave them in the chat, but I want to be respectful of your time, Kelly, but I truly appreciate you taking the time to be with us today to learn a little bit more about what you do day in and day out. But thank you again for being here. And for those of you on the call, thank you as well. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.